progressive, but less progressive than it used to be.
Bob, and then I want to bring it to a larger question.
Well, I wanted to get back to this question that Congressman Ryan just raised about taxes and economic growth. Now, there is no precise level of, gee, if you are at this level of revenue as a share of the gross domestic product, growth is terrific, and if you're a half a point or a point above it, growth is bad. A tax system could have a low rate of revenue collection and be inimical to economic growth because of the nature of the tax system, and it could have a much higher level of revenue collection and be better for economic growth. Let's take the corporate income.
That's right.
Yeah. So we take the corporate income tax. The corporate income tax, we have one of, I think it's maybe the second highest marginal rate among advanced countries, but we actually take in a lower percentage of corporate profit in tax than many of our leading competitors, because we have so many corporate loopholes that we apply a high rate to a narrow base. And then even within the corporate sector, some types of corporations pay high effective rates and some types of corporations pay low or even negative effective rates. You could reform the corporate tax system, in my view, in a way where you make our corporations more competitive by lowering the top marginal rate, but you broaden the base to such a degree that you increase the total amount of corporate revenue we're collecting as a share of profits. The second question is, I think most analysts would agree that the thing that is dangerous to robust long-term economic growth is decade after decade after decade running deficits and debt of the magnitude that's projected off into the future, modestly higher tax rates that contribute as part of a larger plan over the whole budget to significantly addressing long-term deficits and debt. That would be much better for the economy than having higher debt and lower rates. And finally, there are important studies like by Peter Lindert that show some Western European and other Western countries appear to have improved growth even as they raised rates, even as they raised revenue, because they raised revenue in economically efficient ways and invested the money in things like infrastructure, education, basic research that were positive for long-term growth. So the bottom line is there's no simple measure. Gee, here's the hard yellow line in the road. You go $1 beyond that on revenues and you kill economic growth. That's not right. Our main focus should be short-term, do what we need to do to get the economy back on track. Midterm, longer term, we got to bring the long-term deficit and debt down. And yes, higher revenues are going to have to be part of that. As Alice said, we had robust growth in the late 90s at the Clinton era rates, and changes in other areas led by system-wide health care reform, the biggest issue for the long term, has to be part of it too.
Let's